We all know that sight.
Oh yeah, we got a pool party now. Foam party.
But yeah, this is basically engine oil. This is the most recent version of it. I've sprayed it with some degreaser, but it's coming from, we've narrowed it down to either the oil pan gasket, front of it, or it could possibly be the main rear seal, which connects the engine block to the transmission over there. We've already changed the valve cover gaskets, the cylinder head gaskets, both sides, and cleaned that up there. So we pretty much narrowed that out, monitored and examined when we changed the oil filter. And here's our next steps. I'm gonna go clean up, we'll show you where we're seeing the caking and the leakage even after changing those valve cover gaskets. And we're gonna clean it up with some of this and rags. We'll get a brush, and then ultimately we've got this high pressure gun, a bucket of water to clean off all that cake once we degrease it. So, but let's start with getting under there and examining an inspection. Oh, what I've done, parked it on an incline facing down, see if we get any extra obvious leak points. And the most important thing is to chock your wheels. We've got 2 chocks, park brakes on, emergency brakes on, and it's in parking. Important too, people who have low clearance jack up their wheels. Luckily, I'm in a Dodge van. However, I did have to rip off the siding that was originally on here that just made it a pain in the butt to crawl under this van with this blockage here. So now I have an access point to get access to transmission and oil pans. But I have to wiggle my way down there, get a little exercise. All right, so let's go. Yeah, I guess the key too is if you don't want to really work on a hot engine because you have to go right under this exhaust muffler here. And that's pretty darn hot if you have a running engine. But so ideally, if you've run your engine, you want to crawl over from the other side, the passenger side over there. But unfortunately, I have these conversion van step-up things, so it's really hard to access it. I can break off the plastic and make an access point there. I mean, I want to keep those. They're functional, like this step. I'm going to keep this footstep, but I don't need all this fancy covering the bottom of my vehicle. But anyway, back to the point at hand. We're going to crawl under this muffler and over and inspect where the oil's coming from. Alright, so we sprayed it with some of that degreaser. Just give it a good old soaking and we'll start scrubbing. And we can also spray it down. The degreaser, the foam stuff really does good at loosening up that grease and dirt. So we can start spraying and cleaning it off. Follow it up with a little brush and then some water, high pressure water. I don't really think I can show you yet, but I'm going to do it. Okay, so once we sprayed it down after degreasing a bit, we got most of the cake off. There's still some stains and stuff, but that's this side. And I think a lot of that was actually coming from our output shaft seal. That's where I saw leakage before when it's parked the other way, when all the pressure of the fluid's coming this way. I think there's a slight seepage of the output shaft. But when I do drop the pan next time, I'll replace it with a better, deeper pan that has a center unit bung on it already, as well as a drain cap. And then I'll add more transmission fluid, which will increase its capacity, its heat capacity, and thus performance capacity. But anyway, that's the back here. I just wanted to clean that off. I had an inspection back here and saw some transmission fluid leak. We're keeping our eye on it now. Like I said, there's a big chance some of that leakage was actually transmission fluid anyway. It could be from here a little bit. We'll see before we do that. We have to remove the entire drive shaft and even the output shaft casing in order to replace the bushing in there if we do need to replace the bushing. So we're going to do that as last resort. Now onto the oil pan. I believe we have a low pressure leak that we can fix. We're going to clean up first now. And according to this is what we're wanting, right? That's no disassembly required, stops leaks in minutes, it says. We've got a picture of an oil sump or an oil pan there where we think our leak is coming from, but we're going to go have a look closer up. This will help seal that so we don't have to, to remove the oil pan or the oil sump on these You have to drop the transmission mounts, and you have to lift the motor. It's a dedicated process, and I don't got a shop or space to really do that. So we're gonna do everything we can, see if we can patch it up, and see if we can slow down our leaking. Spraying water, so I think we found a source of oil leak. I was hoping it was just going to be the oil pan gasket up there, oil pump up over here. Looking inside there. Ultimately, it comes back here and it drips onto the inspection plate and starts to leak from this crossbar here. It goes under the inspection plate. Alright, we can't be sure that there's any new leaks up here anyway. All that oil we noticed from the bottom of the block here, front of the oil sump, which is somewhere down here, suggested there might be oil that's dripping down from here, but it doesn't seem like it's an active leak. The only way we can be sure is we got to clean it off as much as we can and then let it park here and see if we continue to get new wet oil from the back pressure or not, or if that was just like residual oil that was locked up somewhere in a crevice and now the gravity is allowing it to fall back out. It's not, again, it's not seeping, but there's clearly some wet leakage down there. So let's find out by cleaning off the bottom. But looks like my valve cover install is holding good on this side. Obviously the only problem with this is you have to remove the doghouse, and to remove the doghouse and get more room up here you have to remove the chair here, as I've done from the passenger side. But again, I can't see anything from here, from the top of the block, of active leakage. You know, it's really this radiator fan's kind of blocking me, but up from the top here, nothing obviously leaking or wet on the top. And then so narrows it down to back here, like right above the what is that, crank pulley, the oil pump there. The front of it, there's clearly the oil dripping down there. It's made its way. Like I said, I don't know if this is an active leak or what. We're gonna clean up all there from the top down and then come back on the bottom, spray some more, get the high pressure washer under there, get all the cake out of there, and then just observe. All right, so from the passenger side, gonna use our degreaser first and try to go under the block right here in the general vicinity where the oil sump meets the crankshaft, crank pulley, the front of the engine basically. So mid to front of the block down there. But clearly there's no new fresh leaks from their valve cover gaskets here. So it's not this high, it's lower than this. I'm gonna clean down. I can do this kind of one-handed, I guess. I'm gonna spray, try not to spray on the spark plugs there. Let that the grease just kind of float in there. Oh, up here we got a nice little. Just let that shit soak. Grab any dirt and grease that it can. So from the top, that's what we're able to get, but we still didn't access where our wetness is coming from, and that's up there. You can see so good or not. Hopefully hold it. I can't see what I'm looking at, but as it starts to do its magic, it starts to leak shit down and grab dirt along with it. We're gonna go spray from the top with water here soon, but let me spray this first.
Oh yeah, we got a pool party now, foam party.
Alright, that shit is just coming down. It's funneling down, caking down. We're gonna go help it with some water, but I just wanted to let it start to have its reaction. Pull some of that dirt down. You can see the flow of gravity wherever I've sprayed's made it down to oil sump there. And yeah, that's to let it work its magic in those crevices. I'm gonna go spray from the top.
Alright, let's go.
Alright, that's a good $5 investment. The Walmart foamy one will do. You know, I have some detergent that I can refill, but it's not that aerosol pressurized. Both sides. I don't want to get wet there. We can kind of see, hopefully. Oh man, foam all over, but Yeah, we're gonna do a nice little wash down now and just get all the residual cake and mud off of there. All right, now that I've degreased and washed and sprayed down everything, and I've even dried it off with our jet fan, the OB 40 volt air blower, all as much. I'm gonna crawl under there, wipe it dry and wipe it clean around the areas where there appeared to be evidence of seepage, and then we're gonna put this on here. Let me just see the thing I'm missing.
Adequate ventilation, of course, warm up engine, and turn pre-clean, and turn off. Pre-cleaning leak area with Permatex brake parts cleaner or similar solvent to assure surfaces are free of oil, dirt. I've already done it. Shake can well and protect surrounding areas from overspray. Apply Permatex spray sealant and liberally surrounding areas from overspray. And literally coat the entire leak area with a slow sweeping motion. For hard to reach areas, use the provided extension tube. And yeah, it all seems like common sense here, except that turning on the engine, warming up, turning off, that's one thing, but at least I won't be calling from the exhaust side, so that's good. Wipe off excess sealant with clean cloth. Allow 1 minute to dry, then reapply. For best results, apply minimum of 3 coats. 3 coats, allow 30 to 45 before returning the engine to service. Okay.
So I guess what I gotta do is I gotta warm the engine. I wanna make sure I was all completely dry. I didn't wanna short circuit anything. And then I'm gonna start the engine and warm it up for a few minutes and then turn it off and then crawl under there and start my first coat. Alright, so 2 Dodge keys of the same shape. Only one of them works. Now, it's this one here. This one. Because the other one works for the other hand. Alright, let's warm up our engine. Excess moisture. Wow, sounds so lovely once I change those valve cover gaskets and spark plugs. Yeah! So not long after cleaning and drying off, we clearly see there is an active oil leak here at the front. Looks like the front seal, front gasket, whatever that area. So we may have to clean that up here, spray that. I don't know if I should do it where the oil's actively got the back pressure on it. Actually, I think I'm gonna reverse park up the hill so the oil, but after I seal this one, let's focus on our first fix. We'll worry about this one secondly. So I think I don't want to try to seal it while it's actively gushing out or leaking here. Seeping out is probably more the term, but it's clearly wet new oil that's coming out of that. But back to our original fix up here. We're gonna go ahead and clean that. Sorry, this is the best view I can get up here without a proper tripod, but basically we're going for this area up here. We're gonna wipe off before I seal our first of 3 or 4 spots that we use this stuff on. Alright, so we've done our best to seal all 4 coats or so this whole back area, and then I'm just gonna let it cure anywhere around that pan gasket, and then of course up here as well. We're not sure if it was a problem. It was a suspect spot, but could have been excess oil coming from our front main seal leak up here. We did put some on here, but that's why I want to hold off because there's back pressure. I'm not sure if it's ideal to have the oil still seeping out when we try to seal it. So I'm going to let this initial coating cure, and then I'm going to take it out, let the oil, the fluids, take it for a test drive, come back, and then park it so the opposite way, and then examine if we're still getting the main seep. And then once the back pressure's off this front seal, we'll reseal it up here. Okay, we've taken our test drive, we've checked the oil levels, parked it uphill, and I don't see any obvious leaks. We've washed it down. There's the cured Permatex seal up there. I don't see any dripping or seeping oil now. We did the test run already. We're just going to do another coat in those trouble spots here all along the front of the oil sump and the back where we had suspect seepage. Quick closing thoughts. This quick fix sealant is probably good for like an emergency situation if you're on the road and you have a can of this, but who would have a can of this lying around, right? If you're on the road, if you have a slow leak, it's probably good for that. Or if you actually have an oil pan gasket that's just leaking from one little small section, it'll buy you some more time, a month or more maybe. But ultimately you should address the source of your leak, and in this case it turned out, as I would find later on, it was coming from the leaking timing cover gasket and the water pump and that whole assembly there. Even when I was addressing that later down the road, trying to get some of that cured sealant off of certain bolts that I had sprayed it on, I had basically had a torch, use a torch to get it off, because once it cures and hardens that sealant, it's really gnarly. But obviously sealing from the outside isn't the correct fix. The correct fix is for if you have a leaking gasket, to replace that gasket either with a new gasket or the proper RTV as per recommended. Yeah, that's my closing thoughts, that just taking all the effort to try to diagnose and clean, you might as well really figure out what you're trying to fix and get to the source of it. And I ultimately did. I just wanted to say, yeah, I wouldn't use this as a end-all solution, a stopgap, and that's what I used it for. But if you think you're going to probably have to come back and address the real source of your issues a month or two down the road, you might as well just schedule it and do it properly the first time. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you again on the next one.